All right, so today we're going to move forward with this bathroom reno, and we're going to attack this caulk situation, okay? This is about as bad as it's going to get on somebody's caulk job. If you look here, somebody would just apply caulk over bad caulk over bad caulk, and they just kept on going. So I'm going to show you with a simple tool. In this case, I'm just going to use a box knife, and we're going to cut this old nasty caulk out, clean it really good, and then we will be using a really high quality white silicone caulk and make that look really, really good and fresh. All right, so we can start wherever. All right. These, sometimes the vertical will come off, as you can see, a little bit easier, but it's this stuff down here that can be a little bit of a bear. So I am getting this box knife blade, okay, and I'm gonna try to just cut right under, if you can see that, right under this nasty caulk, right? And then we're gonna just kind of pull it back towards us, see how that works out? And you'll notice a lot, see this mildew and mold, that's nothing dangerous, but that's just where they never really did a good job in the first place. All right, so you're getting a lot of old residue from who knows how many years ago. This will look fantastic when we're all done, but it's all about taking your time. Again, we're gonna cut right under it. See that? You need a good sharp knife, by the way, a good sharp blade, so when you're doing this, you may end up going through several blades, so make sure you have a few with you. Then you're just gonna pull it. Go up underneath it, pull it apart. All right, just like that, okay? Go right up under it. Again, pull. And the quality of the stuff that's made nowadays, the silicone, is just, it's just 100% better. You know, I mean, there's always new technologies, and when it comes to any kind of products like that. Down here at the bottom, you'll get into some hard stuff too, and that's just where you'll have some leftover grout that's been, you know, when you're dealing with a tile wall. One thing I wanted to add that's really important. I'm dealing with a porcelain, you know, old 1970s bathtub. So I'm using this blade on the surface of this, and I'm going to town on it. I'm putting pressure on it. If you have more of a modern bathtub that's acrylic, fiberglass, you know, the newer tubs that kind of started being more prevalent in the 90s and on, you have to be careful using it. Just keep that in mind. You don't want to put gouges in a newer bathtub. So now we're going to go ahead and get started and put a nice bead of caulk on this shower. We already have taken that nasty caulk off. It was quite a job, but we've got that off. Before we get started, I'm going to go over a couple of things about the caulk that we're using, but I do want to mention, you'll see that we have this nice new white tile. Okay, this is an epoxy product that we have used in the past. It came out great. We're going to put a link in the description below, okay, so be sure to check that out. But for the folks that have never used caulk before, you would think that that it's an easy thing, and it is for the most part. Okay, I'm going to go over just the very basics of a caulk gun. So you need a caulk gun. They're usually just a few bucks at your local Lowe's hardware store, Home Depot. So this rod pushes into the caulk gun, okay, and the pressure will then make this material come right off the end, okay? So what you're going to do with the blade, carefully, all right, is just cut it off at an angle, okay? And then as you put the caulk, which I'll show you here in a minute, as you're putting a bead of caulk, you'll go slowly, and then when you're done, there is always going to be a pressure release on the back of these guns. And you say, well, why do I need that? If you don't, you're going to be very frustrated because you're going to have material, okay, just continue to come out of the end of this caulk gun. So it's a little tip, but just make sure you're always aware of that to press that pressure release. Okay, so we're using a really high quality GE Supreme waterproof silicone caulk. This is a hybrid caulk. It's got a 10-year warranty, but what is good about this is that it is basically ready to use or ready to paint in 30 minutes. Okay, a lot of silicone caulks can take, you know, overnight even to dry. So let's get started. Quick tip, always have a good damp rag in your hand, but it's just a way to constantly wipe it off the tip of your finger. But this is basically what it is. You're gonna get it with the tip that's curved. See how that tip is cut at an angle? Always go light, don't go super heavy. We don't want a huge bead. So we're gonna go a couple of feet, then we're gonna take our finger and we're gonna wipe it just a little bit, then rub it off on our rag, okay? You can only do a few inches at a time, otherwise you're gonna get big globs everywhere. So just start wiping, then wipe on your rag. Remember, so when you're putting down a bead of caulk, and by the way, always remember, hit that release when you're done. But when you're doing this, don't put a ton of it on right away. Okay, so just do a little bit, wipe your finger off. A little bit, wipe your finger off. A little bit, wipe your finger off. You're gonna always have a little bit, you know, that you have to come back and maybe get off, but you know, the key is you don't want to use a ton of it. You want it to be sort of inconspicuous. You want it to be clean, and you want it to be something that's not really standing out. Basically all we're trying to do here is to seal it from getting behind that tile, to seal that water out. Alright, when we're doing all this caulking, be sure to look at the top of your tile too. So if you're like a lot in most of your older bathrooms, your tile will stop at around 6 foot, 6.5 feet. And a lot of them will start separating a little bit from your drywall. And this has a little gap up top, so we don't want any moisture coming down behind that tile. So we're gonna go up here and put just a small bead of caulk up here too. All right, so we are done with this job. It came out great. And guys, this is not a hard job. Anybody can do this. I tell you what, it is amazing how big a difference this can make to an old bathroom. So if you have that old bathroom, that tub that has been sitting there with that old nasty, grimy, moldy caulk, take a Saturday, it's inexpensive and you can do it. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you have any questions at all, leave them in the comment section below, and feel free to subscribe and like this video, and we will see you next time.